Hello everyone. Today I'm speaking about work-life balance with the view to being a lot more transparent, communicative, and open in terms of managing their plate. What are we seeing today? In today's work culture, we're seeing more and more people at risk of burnout, more and more people not sleeping, and more people just losing that sense of what is the rest of their life filled with beyond work. When you speak to someone and you meet someone, what do you end up talking about? Work. What do you do for a living? What type of work do you do? When someone says, how was your day? What do you end up speaking about? Work. Do you not think that says something about today's relevant culture? Back in the day, when somebody used to arrive home with their briefcase or their bag, they'd put their bag down and their brain would switch off and they'd be in a different space, a different headspace. They'd give themselves time to be able to connect with other things in their life. Their brain would only switch on again when they literally arrived back in the office. In today's world with technology and with working remotely, the brain doesn't get to switch off. It doesn't get to have a start, a duration, and a stop. It's just start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And what that's doing to the brain is a diabolical way of functioning where the brain is not getting sufficient recovery time. Much like the average adult needs 7 to 8 hours of sleep in order to rejuvenate new cells, the brain also needs an adequate amount of time away from work so that it can rejuvenate again and restore to get enough energy to be able to work again. Now, part of that has got to do with the way you prioritize what matters to you. And more of today's society is leaning towards being pleasers. Why is that the case? Because people want to be liked. People want people to like them. Why do people want people to like them? Because they want a sense of belonging. Now, back in the day, where did people belong? They belonged at the golf club. They belonged at the bowling club. They belonged in the knitting society. They belonged in the crochet club. They belonged with all their friends that they ended up having dinners with and socializing with. In today's society, where do people belong? They belong at work. They're not going out doing things as much as what they used to do because the work-life balance has shifted, which means it's not important for your friends to like you as much as what it is for people at work to like you or for your work clients to like you. And as a result, what's happened is a culture of pleasing where people are starting to skew the way they communicate so that they can please other people. But what has resulted is that people are not being honest. People are wearing a mask and they're just showing a certain way of being, but behind the scenes, their real self is actually trembling. And their real self is the part that creates the anxiety. Anxiety is something that's become so much more prominent, especially through the COVID virus, but it's also become more prominent because people are feeling afraid to actually be honest and to actually take away that mask and to be transparent with what they can manage and what they cannot manage. They don't want to show that they're not coping because as people are getting laid off work, the pressure is on to keep performing. So if they want to keep performing, they're telling themselves, I have to act as if I'm coping. I have to act as if I can handle this. I have to act as if I can do everything. Because the lie I'm telling myself, if I show them anything different, I'm going to lose my job. That is the lie that you're telling yourself. And that type of thinking is what we call masturbatories. I must, I have to, I can't. It lends towards perfectionistic, pressured thinking. The reality is, the truth is there. And you can't hide the truth from your brain because your brain knows. Your brain knows if you're coping or not, no matter how much you try to avoid it, distract yourself from it. And when you are not giving your truth adequate attention, your brain gets your attention. Have you ever thought about how a panic attack happens? It's your brain's way of actually getting your attention because you're ignoring yourself. So what does it do? Well, if it's going to increase your heart rate, if it's going to get you to sweat, if it's going to make you feel like you're going to get a heart attack, you're going to actually start freezing and pausing and taking notice of what's really going on. And the same thing is likened to the workplace, right? you are not taking control because you're not being honest and transparent with what you can manage. I want to liken that to driving a car. I want to do a little experiment with you. If I had to say to you, hop in a car, do you want to hop in the back seat or do you want to hop in behind the steering wheel? Do you want to decide where to go or do you want to just be taken to wherever? Now, if you're the type of person that doesn't take control in situations and is actually almost most comfortable not taking control, you're going to go to the back seat and you're going to just picture yourself there. If you're the person that has to be in control and feels very out of sorts when you're not in control, without a doubt, you're going to hop in behind the driver's wheel. Now, just imagine you're in the car, you're in the back seat, and your boss or your colleague or colleagues, whoever gives you work to handle or tasks to be delivered, they're driving you and they're saying to you, hey, you're going to go and deliver a presentation. I'm not telling you where you're going. I'm not telling you who you're presenting to. I'm not telling you how long you're going to be there. Just present, okay? When you're finished, we're going to hop into the car, we're going to present again, okay? But that's all you know. Just keep going. That's much the same as your working situation. If you're a type of person that just keeps taking on work and saying yes, yes, yes. And the reason being is you're not taking control. You're not communicating with someone what you can manage. You're not communicating what your deadlines are. You're giving the message, sure, 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 bring it on. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And what it's not creating is a respect for your life, a respect for you as a person, because it's saying that your purpose is working and working exclusively. And your purpose is in delivering what needs to be required. And what your purpose really needs to be is about you being a human being, with work being a certain part of your life and not being an all-consuming way of functioning in your life. There's an incredible difference between the two. So if we think about what we're needing the person in the backseat to say, hey, where are we going? How long are we going for? Because I need to be back there. I need to get back home. I need to exercise. I've got a family. I've got to take my children to X amount. So if we're going, that's fine and well, but I can only go for so many hours. What does that do? That creates some sense of knowing, some sense of taking control, some sense of telling your brain, I know what matters and I'm going to respect what matters too. I'm also going to feed my need. So if we look at that, when somebody delegates you a task, you've got to stop and think about, what message do I want to give this person? Do I want to give this person a message that work is the number one priority in my life and it doesn't matter what else goes on, this is all that matters? Or do I want to give that person the message of, thank you for giving this to me, but I need you to know that I've got X and Y on my plate, so realistically I can only give this back to you tomorrow. An example in point. Let's say you have a massive deadline this evening and somebody wants to give you work that needs to be handed in first thing tomorrow morning, and somebody else is also waiting to hand you a deadline. Now everybody's there with their own perceptions and understanding of what you can manage. All of this is based on what they've seen. And what they see is whatever they give you, you give back, and you give it back to them whenever they want, and you don't utter a peep. So the message you're giving is what they need matters, what you can handle doesn't. And that is a massive disrespect to yourself and ignoring of yourself. And in ignoring yourself, your brain knows that you're ignoring yourself, so it starts feeding more adrenaline and more cortisol and more discomfort feelings internally to try to get your attention. Because what your brain is actually saying to you, you are not being honest, you are pretending. And if you're pretending, you're the one that's going to suffer the consequences of those pretending, because you're incubating. Everything is manifesting internally. So what do we need? We need you to think about, how do you get from the back seat of the car to the front seat of the car? And you do that with starting to strategize a little bit better and plan a bit better before you say yes. People have become so accustomed by default to say, yes, sure, I'll do it. And you need to slow that process down You need to start asking questions. You need to understand what exactly do you need to do and when exactly are you expected to do this by. And then there's an element that needs to be included that most people don't. You need to share with them what's on your plate realistically and when you can only start looking at it. So you need to understand what your diary looks like, and you need to communicate with them so that they can adjust their expectations accordingly. And that way, what you're doing is you're not putting them in the back seat. You're not staying in the back seat. You're both in the front seat, and you're taking turns driving. But the difference is you both know where you're going, and you both know how long you're going to be there, and you're both getting what you're wanting out of the situation. You get to work in a more functional and healthier and sustainable way. They get to get their project delivered, and they get to trust that you'll get it done, and they get to observe that you get it done in the time frame and that you still have capacity to keep going. So I'm going to ask you in the future to consider the following. Are you the type of person that's going to stay in the back seat and you're just going to keep quiet and wear your mask and try ignore all the signals that your body's trying to tell you? Or you're going to start giving the message of, sure, there's work to be done. Thanks for handing that over. But I need you to know this, that, and that is my deadline. So if I can do this, I can only start this project in 3 days' time. Realistically, only get back to you at the beginning of next week. Could that work for you? If you can start becoming a better planner by understanding what you can cope with, you can better help other people to respect you. So the question is, what type of person do you want to be? Transparent, communicative, assertive, or the person that starts sitting in the back seat and let life lead them, and that person that tries to ignore their body's signals? You decide.